What's up, everybody? I'm the Layman, and it's my RWBY Volume 5, Episode 3 vlog. And my goodness, this episode was a doozy. There were a lot of things to cover here, so I'll just get right to it. Like, just things have been answered to start, and I'll talk about more of those things in depth as I come up to them in my summary. So this one starts basically ducktailing off of the end of, well, no, not off the end of, but off of the scene from off of the scene from Adam basically enacting his coup of the White Fang in episode 2, with Gira giving a public announcement, like basically denouncing Adam and his practices and whatever, which goes fairly well, like as he's giving it, which I was honestly surprised with. And he outlines his plan. Well, briefly outlines his plan that he wants to, show humanity in the world at large that the goodness of the White Fang, so they're going to go to Haven Academy and defend that. And he asks Blake to come up and give her testimony, at which point Ilya, Chameleon Girl, decides to disrupt the event and, spout Adam's White Fang propaganda. Which gets routed, but she still managed to say her piece, so don't know how that's actually going to turn out. Those two guys in the hoods from last episode, I can't be bothered to remember their names. Last episode, what am I saying? Two guys in the hoods from last season were there, and they were smirking, and I don't trust that. I don't trust that at all. I do not like them. Sam I am. I do not like green eggs and ham. Which, once it's clear that that all that happened, smash cut back over to Haven with RWBY and the gang basically squeeing over Oscar / Ozpin, and throughout all the scenes in this, with that group, there were some great facial reactions, which just proved that Rooster Teeth remembers how the show started off, and I appreciate that. And they basically Oscar basically goes into the whole him Ozpin deal, and he briefly switches with Ozpin to illustrate said point and let the older man explain all that. And he goes into his backstory, which I'm gonna let you guys watch that for yourselves, because I can't be bothered to accurately summarize it here. I'm not even sure if I understand all of it, but that basically happens. And at one point during this, RWBY says, "We've never met a man with two souls before." Hide that book Blake was reading at the sleepover party before initiation in Volume 1. I saw that reference, Rooster Teeth. Don't think I didn't. And yeah, basically that's the highlight of that. Cut over to Weiss and her situation with Raven's Raiders, coming right out of the 80s with that name, and she basically gets given the rundown by that weird lady the only lady that appeared in the opening animatic, the theme song is what it's called, that I didn't recognize before. And she basically gets Weiss abandon all hope, blah blah blah. Weiss tries to bluff her way out, or into getting those guys off balance. There are also two other goons there who aren't really that important, but that ultimately falls through. But about the lady, whose name is Vernal, at the very least, so far that's all we know of her full name. cut to screenshot from that episode. If you look on her arm, on the tattoo there, that looks very much like a phoenix tattoo. Phoenix is a symbol of death and rebirth. Spring is the season of death and rebirth. Or of rebirth, not death. On that note, fall is the symbolic season of death and dying, for that matter. But getting back on point, her name is Vernal, which vernal equinox. That happens in the spring. This lady's the spring maiden. They all but basically said it outright with this. And if you're the kind of person who says no, but they didn't actually say it outright, it's called reading between the lines. Look up a book on filmmaking, or storytelling, or anything. But basically that, yeah. And I was like, so that's a thing. Weiss is still trapped, and at this point, she and Yang are basically going to be the first two of the original Team RWBY to, reunite with each other. If only by sheer coincidence that this happened to Weiss and Yang, in addition to Yang already being on this quest. So I hope that shows up in, like, the next episode or so. That'll be interesting. Although, I'll speculate on it a bit. And yeah, and that's basically the the important things in that scene. Back to Haven. And Ozpin's still, at this point he basically just says you guys need, or he outlines like the steps they need to take to, like fight back against Salem and whatever. Which, spoiler, she's been fighting her for a while. Oh! And the whole Ozpin deal, like, it basically, him basically boils down to his soul reincarnated into some beings of similar something or other, and, like, he eventually, merges with them and gets a little bit of them in him. That's basically one for all from My Hero Academia, Boku no Hero Academia, which that's basically the most succinct way to describe it. And yes, I checked. Boku no Hero Academia was not published before Monty got the idea for RWBY, so no complaining about RWBY stealing from that. You can complain exactly the other way around. I don't care about that. But yeah, he outlines the steps they're going to need to take and basically categorically tells them all their flaws and how they need to shape up. Again, calling out RWBY for having absolutely no hand-to-hand skill whatsoever, and Jean that Jean has not actually unlocked his semblance yet. His aura he still has one of those, but he doesn't have a semblance. But his semblance is not unlocked yet, so we're probably going to see that, if not by the end of probably by the end of this volume, if I have to take a guess. And then he switches back to Oscar and a bit of slapstick. And cut back to Weiss briefly. Like, it's later at night, everybody's fallen asleep, she's still awake. She uses her glyphs to summon a miniature, that big suit of armor knight thing that she used to fight the Lancers in the last episode. And from what it looked like before the episode cut, she was probably gonna use that to, like, cut her bonds open. So interesting to see how that works. If she's actually able to escape and her and Yang don't end up meeting. Although I kind of hope they do. I'd like to at least get some progress back to getting Team RWBY back together. While gesticulating hand gestures because I'm Italian. I actually am. And I guess one more thing of note is that Vernal, possibly the Spring Maiden, is voiced by Amber Lee Connors. So, good on her. She's still getting work. She is hilarious. She is great at... She does a great job as Android 18 in Team 4 Star's Dragon Ball Z Abridged and whatever other actual anime she's actually been in. So, yeah, good on her for getting more work. She absolutely deserves it. And there are still a bunch of unanswered questions and maybe one or two minor ones that have been raised from this, mostly pertaining to stuff in the very immediate future. We'll see if those get addressed in the next episode or in future episodes, but that was basically episode 3, Unforeseen Complications. And yeah, man, is this a doozy so far. I can't wait to know how Rooster Teeth is going to handle what's going to happen going forward, because there's a lot of different things in play now. A lot of things have been set up. The powder keg has got to go off at some point, and I want to know what that explosion's going to look like, to borrow a metaphor. And anyway, maybe we'll get another proper episode next week. Maybe it'll be a World of Remnant aside, but regardless, I will see you guys next week for some video or other. Keep watching RWBY.
We were stuck at a dead end, but now we can just take little cute boy Osmond to Lionheart and have him 16 straight.